Rejected. Natalie.
I, George Alfred, the alpha of the Two Hills Pack, reject you, Natalie Stevens, as my mate. From now onwards, you're not going to utter a word to anyone about us being mates, and you're free to look for your mate.
These are the kind of reflections that keep on flowing in my mind even as I run towards the pack borders. I can't imagine that someone who's supposed to accept and protect me has just rejected me and freed me to do as I wish, and to make the matters worse, he has forbidden me from telling anyone about him being my mate. My name is Natalie Stevens, 14 years of age, and until recently, I was a member of the Two Hills Pack, though I am just an Omega, one of the lowest ranks. Until today, I've never been disrespected in such a manner. I've always lived in harmony with everyone since my parents taught me good manners from birth. Even George himself never despised me or showed me any form of disrespect. Therefore, I expected him to accept me immediately he found out that I was his mate. The Two Hills Pack is so called because of its location on top of two hills. Beyond the hills is a sprawling forest, uninhabitable because of the many rogues who roam there and other wild beasts. Beyond the forest, my father tells us there are more packs. We live in harmony and there's plenty within our borders. The alpha of our pack is an aging man, and he is the father of George. Personally, I think he can make a good alpha, just like his father, and lead the pack to prosperity, even though I've heard my parents saying that he's heavy-headed and takes no advice. Well, today the alpha was retiring, and since George is his rightful heir, he was being given the arm of leadership. He was yet to meet his mate, therefore all the pack maidens were invited so that they can try their luck with him, to see if they were his destined mate. It was one huge party, attended by many people, including other members of my family. My father, mother, and my young brother Boniface were all present. Since I'm only 14, my parents urged me to attend just like the rest so as to help in serving drinks and food to the guests. Well, that's what Omegas are good at doing in pack house parties. I discovered my wolf when I was barely 13, though I never disclosed this to anyone. I could smile alone whenever my wolf sounded in my head, and we always communicated like the friends that we are. Earlier today at the party, I busied myself in serving drinks and meals to everyone until 3 in the afternoon, when I felt a bit tired and decided to relax at the backyard of the pack house. I was busy minding my own business, smiling to my wolf's jokes, when I suddenly smelled a familiar scent. This time round, it wasn't just some scent, but it was so unique, so intoxicating. The scent in question smelled of a mixture of fresh roses and lavender, making me to get inebriated immediately, and an urge arose to find out where it was coming from. Instinctively, I sat up from the comfortable couch I was leaning onto and looked around me, trying to trace whoever the sweet scent belonged to. Lo and behold, it was none other than the newest alpha in town, and I stood up, trying to put up a smile. He is our mate, my wolf sounded in my head. What should I do now? I asked her, since I was new in this field. I'm only 14, remember? Call him mate, she instructed me as she purred excitedly. Since the alpha had already arrived at the place I was seated, I smiled as my lips parted immediately, and I said, Matt.
Don't you dare finish that name else.
George cut me short, and he warned me as he held up his arm to stop me from finishing mentioning the name mate. Oh no, what was my mistake? He stepped closer and held me by the throat threateningly, his golden eyes turning hazel with fury and his wolf growling.
I, George Alfred, the alpha of the Two Hills Pack, reject you, Natalie Stevens, as my mate. From now onwards, you're not going to utter a word to anyone about us being mates, and you're free to look for your mate.
He scoffed. It was basically the first thing he did on becoming an alpha. But you are my I tried to say, but he cut me short yet again. What did you think, huh? That a mighty and powerful alpha like me will accept a weak omega like you to be my mate? Besides, you're still a kid and you have a long way to go. I can't have a kid omega for a Luna, he said as he tightened his grip on my throat.
Let go of me! You're hurting me!
I managed to say amid sobs, as an excruciating pain pierced through my heart. It was like a sharp knife had been sent right through it. It's like he noticed he was truly hurting me, therefore he let go of me, but not before pushing me away and spitting on my face.
Go back to serving my guests. That's what you're good at.
He scoffed as he growled and then turned to leave, his feet hitting hard on the tiled floor. Before I knew it, I was sprawled on the floor, clutching my heart in an excruciating pain, and for a moment there, I thought I was going to pass out. I hated myself. I hated everything, everyone. Why was I suffering like this? George had called me by name. He already knew I was his mate, didn't he? And why did he subject me to this pain? The questions kept on bothering me. Still on the ground, I am wondering what I am going to tell my parents once we get home. That I have discovered my mate but he has rejected me? No way. I have to do something to hide this kind of humiliation. I am going to get away. Far, far, far away from the pack. They have rejected me, the whole pack, and I hate them. I am going to start a new life out there, somewhere that I wouldn't be seeing George every day and remembering the words that have torn through my heart. But I need to get to my feet first. I don't know for how long I stayed in that position, but what I remember is that I finally managed to suppress the pain and rose up, headed to the back door of the pack house. Still in pain, staying in the shadows to avoid being seen, I took off and headed towards the pack borders with one resolution in mind. I'm becoming a rogue. Escape. Natalie. I run, and as I approach the barriers, I see them parting, and without giving it much thought, I run through them and pass by the guards on duty who pursue me for a while. However, I am so fast for them and they give up and go back. All this while, my wolf has been silent, and since I'm still young, I can't shift so as to run faster. Either way, I keep on running till it's dark and the sun has already set. I need to keep away from the Two Hills pack. Away from the events that took place earlier today. I have entered a thick forest with tall trees and dense undergrowth. I easily forget that it's the same sprawling forest that teems with rogues and many dangerous beasts. I have either dismissed the thought or am so preoccupied with getting away that I don't care. I've exhausted all the food that I ate at the party and I'm suddenly feeling hungry. I walk around and identify a tree with many succulent berries and start eating. I also hear the cooling sounds of a river flowing, and my sense of smell tells me that the water is good for quenching the thirst that is troubling me. I walk to the river and drink my fill. Then I remove my clothes and dip myself inside, and in the semi-darkness I enjoy as the water cools down my body. Such a refreshing moment that I forget all that I'm running away from. Moments later I put my clothes back on and walk towards a tree, and due to exhaustion, I lie under it and I'm immediately carried away by heavy sleep. I wake up with a start. I open my eyes and I realize that it's still dark. Very dark, and I'm not lying on my comfortable bed. I'm in the forest, under a tree. It's very cold, and I realize that in my haste to escape I had forgotten to take with me some form of warm clothing. The temperatures have gone down and I am actually shivering. But that's the least of my problems. In my haste to escape, I have ended up in this dreaded forest, and right now I'm too afraid of what the forest may hold. Right now I can hear many sounds. Insects, birds, and other unknown sounds. I decide to climb up a tree, but as I take on the stem, I hear some movement. Then I detect some strange smell. Something is growing, making scary noises, and I look around to trace it. Filled with immense fear, I decide to concentrate on climbing onto the tree, but my oily hands won't let me. I fall back on the bushes, and when I try to get up again, a heavy paw grabs my leg, bringing me back to the ground. I scream as I try to free myself from its hold, but it lunges at me in full force, sending me sprawling on the ground. I try to get up again, but the beast is all over me. It bares its fangs as it growls, its paws outstretched. Then it reaches down on me as I scream in horror. When I come back to my senses, I find myself on a bed, and when I try sitting up, My head hurts. In fact, my whole body aches. My eyes can't open fully because a sharp pain runs through them when I try. The events of that night come flooding back and whatever led to me running away, making me to sigh in desperation. Instinctively, I place my palm on my hurting face and I scream loudly when I feel something like a bandage around my head. My head is so heavy such that I can't even lift it up. I suddenly remember the beast that attacked me and wonder what happened next. Immediately I hear some voices outside, as if some people are discussing about something, and before I know it, 3 people enter into the room, looking worried and surprised at the same time. "Thank goodness you're awake," the young girl who's around my age says. "Who are you and where am I?" I ask the trio. "I am Anne and this is my father Joseph and my brother Peter," the girl replies. "We rescued you 2 days ago just as a beast was about to devour you. You are so lucky to be alive. My father here is the one who shot at it just in time. Welcome to our humble abode, but there's something you need to know. We are rogues." I digest that piece of information as I look at the 3 family members surrounding the bed. How is rogue life? I ask myself, but then I see that it's them who I should be asking. Their father looks like a man in his 40s, with streaks of gray in his hair and a gray stubble. I wonder where their mother is, and my mind suddenly wanders to my parents and brother back at the Two Hills Pack. Are they wondering about my whereabouts? "You need to eat." Joseph breaks the silence and wakes me from my reverie. "You haven't eaten anything for all the time you have been here." "Give me some water please," is the only thing I can say. Peter moves out and moments later he walks in with a jug and a cup. He pours some water into the cup and hands it to his sister who helps me to drink it. As it goes down my throat I feel some pain. My throat was bruised. Later the trio sit beside my bed as I narrate to them what happened and why I was in the forest when they found me. "That forest is very dangerous. You are the first person we have found alive. Mostly we find dead bodies and others who have been eaten to the skeleton," they explain to me. "Thanks. I'm forever grateful," I say. "Don't mention it," Joseph says. "You will stay with us until you are fully healed, after which you can decide on your next course of action. Maybe you will think of going back home." Going home? That's something I'm not going to do, but I keep it to myself. New pack. Natalie. Days pass as I still live with my newly found family and my wounds heal, leaving some scars all over my body. There's one in particular which is huge and ugly on my face, straddling my nose and stretching all the way to my chin, which has refused to go away. We have tried all kind of herbs on it so as to disappear to no avail, and I have decided to keep it as a reminder to what I went through that night. I've already embraced my new life of being a rogue, living far away from other pack members together with my new family, in a small house in the woods. At least, it's better than living in a huge house, near an alpha who doesn't want anything to do with me. I'm experiencing a lot of peace and that's what really matters for now. I learned that this family left their pack when Joseph's mate was attacked by rogues many years ago and killed. Unable to cope with the trauma, Joseph took to the forest with his small children and that's how they grew up as rogues. Anne and Peter are students though, at a school in a pack not far away from their cabin, the Evergreen Pack. We instantly become good friends and I become like a member of the family. Through so much persuading, and manages to convince me to join their school and we start attending school together. Joseph, their father, undertakes to pay for my tuition. Such an angel. In the same school I find another girl, Janet, a friend from Two Hills Pack. We're in the same class. She's no longer a member of the Two Hills Pack anymore, because they already moved to the Evergreen Pack. We continue with our friendship though she doesn't ask me why I moved and neither do I. She keeps on telling everyone who cares to listen that her mate is the alpha of the pack. Honestly, I care less. I only want to concentrate on my studies. A few years pass and one day after school, Joseph informs us that there's a decree made by the pack's alpha for every student to join the pack and become a member in order to continue learning. This evergreen pack, he tells us, is led by Alpha James Martins. Accordingly, we all enroll ourselves with this pack, but we refuse to live with the other pack members' living quarters, claiming that we're comfortable with our life in the jungle, something that the pack elders embrace. It's like a welcome relief for them, because everyone still regards us as rogues, who have to be avoided by all means necessary. Joseph later tells us that the registration is for the purposes of a purge on rogues that is on the way, and anyone who doesn't belong to any pack will be in trouble in the coming days. It's on a Friday afternoon, and I'm already from school when it informs me that there is a party at the pack house hosted by Alpha James himself in search of his mate. Everyone is invited, and she is asking me to accompany her to the fete. The issue of the unmated alpha puzzles me because of what Janet has been saying about being the alpha's mate. But do I care? Since it's not a must for everyone to attend, I decline softly, informing Anne that I won't be able to attend. I feign a non-existent illness, to an extent of drinking some concoction of herbs so as not to attend. She sympathizes with me and leaves me lying on bed after wishing me a quick recovery. Well, I know it's because I once had a mate who rejected me in the cruelest manner ever, causing me a whole lot of pain and even making me to run away from those that I loved. Those years that have elapsed haven't made me forget the ordeal, and the pain may take very long to heal. After Anne leaves, I walk to the living room and switch on the television to watch movies. Later that night they come from the party, and I pretend to be sound asleep since I don't want anyone to tell me how the party went on because I am not interested. Early in the morning, since it's a Saturday and I'm not attending school, I wake up to prepare breakfast. Peter informs me that Alpha James didn't meet his mate the previous night at the party, and he still has a feeling that his mate is within the pack. What's more is that he is convinced that she's among those who didn't attend the party. Oops! So it means he'll hold another party? But what happened? I thought Janet was the alpha's mate after all the bragging she does in school. Or maybe she too didn't attend the party? The puzzle deepens. I have heard many things about Alpha James, especially how handsome he is. If it was before my heartbreak, I would have considered looking at him to gauge his looks, but now I'm not interested in mates, love, mate bonds and such stuff. I only want to complete my studies and move on. What are you thinking about? Anne asks, startling me from my daydream. She has just come in, a mug of steaming coffee in her hands, and has become more of my confidant. Or it's me who is her confidant, because she tells me many of her secrets, and today she looks as if she has something to share. Nothing. I was wondering what excuse to give once they call for another meeting. I don't think you will buy the sickness excuse again. I say, you will have to, if you want to continue being a member of this pack. She says, what are you afraid of? If he finds out that you are not his mate, you will just walk away. Also, if by any chance he finds that you are his mate, then you will be the luckiest girl under heaven. James is a good man, and I envy the girl who is destined to become his mate, she says, pausing in between to take some sips from her cup. I remain silent and listen to her sober advice. Think about it, my sister. This may become your turning point, she adds on her way out. Maybe I should give it a try. I think, if only to spite Janet hates me. Natalie. I notice considerable changes in Janet. Since she attended the party, she must have known that she's not James' destined mate, and she must be feeling so hurt about that. Well, she needs to stop throwing herself at a man who doesn't have an interest in her. But then there's something that puzzles me. Is she going to take out her frustrations on me? Does she think I'm the reason the alpha didn't pick her? She knows that these things come naturally, doesn't she? Then why did she decline my greetings? Then, all of a sudden she becomes withdrawn and she doesn't want anything to do with me. I have tried approaching her and initiating a conversation, but she shoves me away. calling me all sorts of bad names including an ugly rogue. I don't give up on her because our friendship spans many years, and I approach her once more.
Don't you ever get closer to me, you ugly scoundrel.
She scoffs at me and sizes me from head to toe.
I never want to be associated with an ugly and disgusting rogue like you. Have you looked at yourself in a mirror? You are ugly. You reek of shit.
What the hell? Her words stir a raw wound in my heart, making me to smell at my dress, and when I discover that I'm smelling just like a normal teenager, I shoot daggers at her. Why do you hate me this much, Janet? I thought we were good friends. What really changed? I ask her, trying to get a reason as to why she's so indifferent towards me.
And you have a mouth to speak, you dimwit?
She scoffs, spitting at my face.
I hope my saliva will clear that ugly scar on your face once and for all. Anyway, since you've demanded for an explanation, I'll give you one.
She continues spitting venom like the snake that she is.
While in the Two Hills pack, we used to be omegas and of the same level, but right now, I'm an omega and you're a miserable rogue who depends on strangers for food and survival. Ugh, you disgust me.
She utters, then turns to leave. Gosh, why is she this heartless and vulgar? No, this is not the Janet I used to know. Something must have triggered her sudden change of attitude towards me. But what is it? Sadly, this is not the last time I encounter her today, and every time she accosts me, she's rude and ruthless even without being provoked. Since I don't want to cause trouble by defending myself and maybe wounding her badly, I've been trying to always ignore her and keep my calm. After all, it doesn't hurt to be the bigger person. The mother of all showdowns happens on a Wednesday morning. I'm the first to arrive in class because I need to prepare for an assessment test. As I go through my maths books slowly, I notice someone standing in front of me, and when I raise my head, it's Janet, looking down at me. Gosh, not her, not again. How can I help you? I ask her, closing my books.
I told you, by leaving, you will do me a great favor if you left this pack. I hate you, Natalie. I hate you,
she says, a sneer registering on her face. Well, if you can't stand me, it's you who should leave, not me, I respond. We continue hurling insults at each other, and we only stop when other classmates troop in. The tests begin soon after, and I forget about our altercation, instead focusing my whole attention on the exams. In the afternoon, I'm keen to leave early to avoid her, and after school, and who has been busy hunting, informs me that Alpha James has demanded to meet everyone who didn't attend the party, including the rogues. Since I'm not in the mood to attend, I leave and take a walk within the pack, but not before informing her about the altercation between Janet and I at school. She advises me to keep my distance since defending myself might cause some bodily harm to her, given my anger and temper that are so hard to control. Besides, she tells me, trouble may arouse unwanted attention and lead to expulsion from the pack. I just nod and walk away since that's what I've decided to be doing in the first place. I wander far and wide, still deep in thoughts, when I hear someone calling for my attention. I don't know how far I've wandered, and I'm shocked to realize that I'm in the pack's training grounds. Hey, young lady, how are you? He approaches me as I stand transfixed on the spot. Maybe I have crossed into a no-go zone.
Who are you, and what do you want from me?
I ask, trying to arouse my wolf. She doesn't respond at all, and all I can do is to wait for the guy to state his mission and maybe leave. Surprisingly, I don't feel intimidated by his size. He's tall and handsome, and he reeks of pure command. My name is Josh Matthews, and I'm Evergreen Pax Beta. I have instructions from Alpha James to inform you that your attention is needed in his presence. He explains.
Well, go and tell your mighty Alpha that I'm not interested, and I'm not accompanying you to meet him,
I say with finality, then turn to leave. Then you leave me no choice but to handcuff you and drag you to the pack house by force, he says with finality. grabbing me from behind and commanding his companions to put cuffs on my hands. Goodness gracious! Am I going to appear before the alpha in handcuffs like a common and dangerous criminal? Wow! I anticipate that it'll be a pleasant meeting. The pack house is a magnificent building, done with no expenses spared. However, I have little time to absorb the details because I'm shoved into the alpha's office where he's seated, busy tapping at the keyboard of his desktop. When he senses my presence, he looks up and smiles and then stands up. The beta and his guards are dismissed and they walk away. His scent reminds me of George's scent, which I smelt a few years ago before he approached me and rejected me cruelly. It's so intoxicating, so inebriating, yet I can't bring myself to mention the word mate, lest I get another painful disappointment.
Mate!
He utters, making me to remain mum since my expectations are to be painfully rejected. My mind goes back to that day George rejected me, and upon playing that whole scenario in my mind, including how I ran away only to end up in the claws of a killer beast, I feel like collapsing. Did I say something wrong? Won't you accept me as your mate? James asks, approaching me and surprising. I don't flinch nor push him away. Instead, I remain transfixed on the spot, a million thoughts running through my mind. I don't reply, therefore he places an arm around my waist and leads me to the couch and makes me sit on it, then sits beside me, observing me keenly. I hope I won't scare him away with my ugly scar. Oh, thank goddess I'm not destined to be rejected by my mates forever.
Will you have tea or coffee?
His words wake me up from my reverie. Tea, please. Thanks, I reply, and suddenly my stomach is full of butterflies. Mate, Natalie. Alpha James turns out to be a cool and caring guy, and as he sits beside me, scrutinizing my face, especially where the ugly scar is, he asks me not to reject him as his mate, and even goes to an extent of asking me to join him at the pack house and start living with him, even promising to protect me from all danger always. He goes on to promise me many nice things, but I only listen silently, confused. Due to my previous experience with George, I refuse to accept him, though I don't reject him. I no longer believe in love and the so-called mate bond, my previous faith in it having been severely affected. I don't tell him the reason for growing cold feet since I don't want to start explaining myself to anyone. I won't deny the fact that I can feel the mate attraction between us and the bond is becoming stronger every passing moment, but my past has just left a bitter taste in my mouth as well as my soul.
What happened to your face? Did someone inflict those scars on you?
He asks, and when he notices that I'm adamant not to tell him, he speaks yet again.
Tell me, Natalie, and I'll deal with that person mercilessly for hurting my mate.
Since I'm not ready to disclose my painful past with him about George's rejection, I just lie to him that I wandered far and wide from my pack and lost my way back home, and that's when I met a beast which attacked me, almost killing me. I inform him that the family I'm living with currently rescued me from the beast's grip and treated my wounds. Upon hearing that, he sympathizes with me and promises to do something so as to ensure my scar disappears.
Our pack doctor is an expert in reconstructive surgery. I can let him take a look,
he says. Since I don't want to say much, I just nod and play with my fingers. He tries to keep me talking, but I'm a bit hesitant, keeping myself busy fiddling with the cup in my hands. I request him to let me go since I need space and some time alone, but he's adamant, citing that he wants me to be his mate and start my Luna duties as soon as possible. Something I turned down since I can't accept a second mate after a few years of being rejected by my former mate.
Am I not attractive enough? Am I not capable of being your perfect mate? Are you in love with someone else?
He asks consecutively, and I can tell he's trying to control his temper since his eyes are already turning color. He's trying his level best to keep his wolf under control. It's not like that, Alpha. It's just that, I say, but I'm unable to finish the sentence. I don't want to infuriate him any further.
Just what? Tell me, Natalie.
He insists, and him calling my name sounds so sexy, and I'm tempted to fall for his charm. By the look of things, I can tell that he's quite different from George by far. He's a gentleman.
And please, call me James. Mates aren't supposed to address each other with fear,
He adds, assuring me, and I nod in understanding without saying anything. What should I say anyway? Since I love my freedom, I can't promise him my compliance. Hence, I insist on leaving to my small house. I'm sure Joseph and his children are worried about me since it's already night time, and is calling, though I'm not picking her calls. As we sit there with James trying to convince me to stay, a young boy who's still in his early childhood years enters the office without knocking, and when he sees James sitting so close to me, he grins and walks to sit in between us. He doesn't know how his innocent actions have saved me since I was starting to fall for James, but now that he's here, he has just saved the situation, and I've shoved those feelings at the back of my head. I hope my brother is not giving you trouble, he says, and I grin, wondering how such a small boy could be having such sharp brains. Well, he's not a bad person. He buys me candy and biscuits every time he visits the shopping center. He adds before I can say anything.
Mike, stop it, will you?
James scoffs at him, but Mike doesn't seem to relent. Wow, so his name is Mike and he's the alpha's brother? Ignoring his brother, Mike turns to me and continues smiling, his eyes fixed on my ugly scar. My name is Mike and James here is my elder brother. I still blame him for coming into this world before me because I should have been the alpha now. Oh, this boy, he's so talkative and full of wisdom. His brother just shakes his head, while on the other hand I'm trying to control my laughter. I don't want to irritate James at all. What's your beautiful name, my lady? He asks, running a soft hand over my scar. I am Natalie. Nice to meet you, Mike, I reply, hoping he won't call me ugly as Janet calls me. Your scar is so beautiful, Natalie. What happened to you? He asks. Maybe I should take James's offer on the surgery. The scar is attracting a lot of attention from everyone. It's a long story, honey. I'll tell you one day soon. Okay, Natalie. I can tell that you and my brother are so close. Please don't hurt him, he says, and since his eyes are fixed on mine, I just nod. I don't want to explain myself further. Well then, can I have your phone number before I leave? I want to go back and continue playing my game in my computer. This boy is so sweet. He has even gone to an extent of asking for my phone number. Wow. Okay, dear. Scribble it somewhere. To my surprise, he takes out a phone from his pants pocket and feeds my phone number in it as I repeat the digits to him. As I said before, he's so wise for his age. He calls my number to confirm that it's the same and then smiles, urging me to save his number. And when visiting next, please bring me ice cream and candy, he says, then stands up to leave after ensuring that I've nodded in agreement. Wow, I wish my brother Boniface was equally young and sweet. After Mike leaves, I also excuse myself and exit James's office amid his protests, but I just can't continue sitting there lest I get tempted, and I don't want to do things which I'm not prepared for. Later that evening I tell Anne about it as we cook dinner. She urges me to agree to what James wants. He'll never disappoint you, my dear. Do you realize how lucky you are? She asks. So many girls had their eyes on him at the party. You should have seen them. She adds. James's mother died when he was still young and he was left under the care of his father. His father later got another mate, the mother to Mike. Then just last year, James became the alpha after his father's retirement. James needs a mate to steady his leadership. Please, the guy needs you. Go for it, she says. What if he does to me what George did? I ask. And stops stirring the soup and comes closer, looking me straight in the eye. From what I have gathered, James is a very honorable person. He'll never hurt you, let alone reject you, if I may say this. It looks as if the rejection may come from your end, and you will have hurt him immensely. Think about it, Natalie, she says, then walks back to preparing her broth. I'll need to think deeply about this.
Indifferent, James. I became the alpha of our pack when my father, the former alpha, retired. I remember vividly the day of my inauguration. In a ceremony that took place in the pack house, many people had been invited to the ceremony, which was his retirement party. Among the invited guests were my stepmother and my younger brother, Mike. My own mother died about 10 years ago and I was her only child. I really miss her because she loved me so much. I later came to know that after giving birth to me she developed some complications and could not conceive again. Then the complications led to a disease that ate her slowly but surely until she was a skeleton. Then later she died. After her death our family was never the same again, and my father, though he pretended to be fine, was very devastated. He however picked himself up and brought me up to adulthood. It's only when I could fend for myself that he found another mate and got his other child, my younger brother Mike, who I love very much. My stepmother proved to be a very supportive Luna, and I was happy that my father had finally found love. In the retirement party that night, my stepmother also relinquished her roles as the Luna of the park and the office was left vacant as I took over the alpha role. The couple left the pack the following day, leaving Mike under my care, and went on a long vacation that took almost a whole year. They later returned and settled in a different house, leaving the enormous pack house under my command. Just this year I found out that I had a mate, and she was right here in my pack, the Evergreen Pack. Everyone knows how much I need a mate. First, this pack is under constant threat from invasion by rogues and I need a strong Luna behind me to steady me, to make me complete. It's every man's dream to have a woman to go home to, and mostly a fighter like me who will once in a while need to have his battleground wounds taken care of. I strongly feel a scent that indicates that my mate is just within, but as much as I have searched, I haven't seen her, and now I'm getting desperate. Just a few days ago I threw a big party and I was sure I would find her that night, but what happened was the opposite. All the girls who attended were desperately trying to throw themselves at me, but there wasn't any mate attractions between them and me, so I politely turned them down. I remember one in particular, whose name I easily remember as Janet, who was very upset with me when I was not interested with her. She tried everything, including inviting me to dance with her, but still I didn't talk much to her. These girls didn't understand. I wasn't looking for some random girl to enjoy life with. I needed a mate, and these attractions come naturally, and however much you try to force it, if you aren't someone's mate, it's not possible. I remember that she left slightly after midnight, but not before trying to woo me some half a dozen times. I felt pity for her and hoped that she found her mate soon. As for me, I didn't find her that night, but I gave myself hope that I would find her soon because the feeling was there that she was very close, a member of my pack. I later discussed this matter with my beta, Josh Matthews, and he advised me to invite all those people who had not attended the party, but still I didn't find this elusive mate and I decided to give up the search. I decided to take care of pack affairs, mostly training of our warriors. We always train our eligible members to stay in top form because rogues are always wreaking havoc everywhere. They have been responsible for the downfall of a neighboring pack and I don't want the same to happen to my pack. It's while at the office one afternoon that Beta Josh walks in with this girl in handcuffs and announces to me that she was the only member of the pack that I had never met before. Just one look at her and I knew that she was my mate. I felt my wolf telling me that she was the one and her scent proved me right. Standing about 5 feet, and with auburn hair, she looked very beautiful and I liked her the moment I saw her. I admonished Beta Josh for bringing her to me in handcuffs, but he replied that she had resisted seeing me voluntarily. Wow, strength of character. When Beta Josh left us I came closer, and just when I was a few feet from her my wolf became very restless, trying to take control of me. You can imagine my surprise when I said the word mate and she just stood there, looking at me as if she hadn't experienced the same feeling. I thought I had made a mistake, but no. Mate bonds existed, and there was no way my wolf would mislead me, especially on something as delicate as this. We ended up talking about general issues, and that's when I found out that there was something bothering the girl. First, she had this big scar on her face that disfigured her. removing her hitherto beautiful looks. However, I'm not interested in her physical looks, because I know that beauty is only skin deep, and I am interested in my mate. Irrespective of how she looks physically, the girl is beautiful, even with her scar, and when I talk to her I gather something else that attracts me to her even more. She is the most intelligent girl I have met, and as our conversation continues we are joined by my brother Mike. Mike and the girl, Natalie, immediately develop a sudden rapport, and that endears her to me even more. I invite her to become my Luna, but she declines, opting to remain non-committal. I decide to give her some time. This is one girl I'm not going to let go. She is my mate, and I'm certain there is something that's holding her back, and I need to find out what it is. I find it funny that the girls from my pack are so desperately throwing themselves at me to be their mate, but the one who is my mate is so indifferent. Funny, but why is she that way? I wonder. Maybe she was a victim of a heartbreak or something terrible happened to her, but even as much as I prod, she doesn't want to say. Time. I decide to give her some time. When she walks out of my office, I discover that we have been talking for 4 hours straight and it's already dark. She turns down my offer to drive her home, but there is still some hope, since she is still a member of my pack. Plus I have her phone number in Mike's phone. I'll keep on trying. I'll make her mine. She's my mate after all.
Sleep on it, Natalie. Guess what, y'all? And asks as we take dinner. It's a bit late because we were late in preparation owing to my getting home late. I still have a feeling of some elation from our meeting with the Alpha, and I'm also confused. Peter speaks, urging N to speak. What? You guys won't believe it, but Alpha James has found his mate, and says. I remain silent, but I wish she does the same too, but when I look at her direction she avoids eye contact. Joseph and Peter have stopped eating and they're all fixing their eyes on and who is enjoying the moment.
Say what?
Joseph interjects.
When did this happen?
He asks. Today. He was right all along. His mate was a member of this pack, only that she didn't attend that party, and continues keeping them in suspense. Please, Anne, why don't you cut to the chase? Who is this lucky damsel? Peter prods, and rejoices in the moment, and I try to wink to her to stop, or change the topic. You guys won't believe who it is. She has been living under our very own noses all that time. A case of too near yet so far, she says. And please, Peter says. Alpha James's mate is seated right here with us. We can proudly say that Alpha James is our brother-in-law. She says finally, and I see the eyes of both men turn towards me, looking for my reaction, but I remain unreactive.
Is it true, Natalie?
Joseph finally breaks his silence. I wipe my hands with a towel, then put aside my food and explain the events that led me into the Alpha's office. Everyone listens in silence as I tell them about the Alpha's proposal. But your Wolf, what does she say about it? Once you met him, your Wolf should have told you something? Joseph asks me. At this point my Wolf is in recess, and that has been the case since the day I was attacked by the beast in the forest. I wish she could give me the direction. I wish she was here when I need her most. I say. But if indeed James said that he can detect a mate bond between the two of you, then I believe him. James is a very virtuous young man. Joseph continues, but Peter cuts in. If the two of you are mates, why didn't you remain at the pack house? That's where you belong now. Your new home, Natalie, he says. I am confused. In the darkness, you all know about my past and how my mate from my former pack rejected me. Right now I'm living in fear. What if I get rejected again? My heart cannot handle another rejection. That pain was too much, and if it happens again I'm going to be devastated. I say. Everyone falls silent and you can hear a pin drop. Listen, my daughter, Joseph says, looking at me. Things happen, and the way you react at them is what defines you. He says in a fatherly tone. That rejection back there at the Two Hills pack. Take it as a blessing in disguise. That man did not deserve you. Now another worthwhile man has found you. Our God has paired you with the most coveted man in our pack. Ask around, and everyone will tell you that Alpha James is the dream of all the girls in this pack. My daughter, you are very lucky, and I suggest you go back to him and agree to what he says. He says, I agree with you, Dad. Peter cuts in. This is an opportunity to cure your old wounds. This is a God-given chance. Don't ignore it, Natalie. I was at the party and I saw all the girls throwing themselves at James and I could only pity them. Go for it, my sister, and I guarantee you that you will never regret. He says, and has not spoken a word, and she now raises a finger, as if asking for permission to speak. All these are the things I told her as we cooked. I hope now you have heard them from other people and you will make an informed decision. I suggest that you sleep on it, and by tomorrow morning you will have a concrete decision. It's already too late. Let's see each other in the morning. I'm already too tired, Joseph says as he leaves the dining table. We all disperse, and just as I enter my bedroom my phone rings. It's Mike, James's brother. I lock my bedroom first and pick up the call, wondering why the boy is still up at this hour. Hello, Natalie. His voice is very clear. He hasn't gone to bed still. Hello, Mike. Why are you up so late? I ask. I wanted to talk to you before sleeping. Why did you leave? He asks. I needed to go back to my family. I answer, taken aback. But James tells me you are his mate, and mates live together. Please come back. He says. Listen, Mike. I'll think about this, then I'll come over someday and say hi. How about that? I ask him. The boy is so inquisitive. That's great, Natalie. Bye and good night. He says. Good night, Mike. I say. This is moving so fast and I need to act on it fast. I had earlier on made a resolution that I would concentrate on my studies and avoid sideshows. But now I'm in the middle of it all. I may become the Luna of the pack, a task that is not very easy for someone of my age. But for that to happen I have to accept to be the alpha's mate. What do I do? As and has just said, I will sleep on it, and by morning I will have reached a decision. Confusion galore. Natalie, I'm the most confused girl around here. I can confess that I don't know what to do. Things are moving at an incredible speed, and I am not sure which way to take. I thought that I'd sleep and wake up decided, but there's nothing. I am even more confused as I rush to school. Earlier I avoided talking to my family about the issue as we took breakfast, and when Peter tried to raise it I brushed the topic aside, detecting that I was reluctant to talk about it. He didn't pursue it further. I get to our class before anyone else and go straight to my books. If there's anything I give paramount importance, it's classwork. I promised myself that I will always leave everything outside the class door and enter the classroom with a clear mind, ready to absorb my studies. The results of the assessment test are out and I have done well, except for a few questions that I have answered wrong. I go through the marked questionnaires, trying to correct myself, and that takes away all my attention. This is what I love mostly about classwork. It takes me away from my daily life, gives me a temporary reprieve from all what is happening out there. But this morning my mind refuses to focus on my studies. Much as I try, it wanders around and finally settles on my family and life at the Two Hills Pack. I wonder how they're doing, having left without saying goodbye. They must be wondering where I went to. Did they report me as a missing person? Maybe there is a missing person report out there, and posters bearing my picture, advising people to report to the authorities if they saw me. I wonder what would happen if one of such posters found its way here and everyone saw it. But that would not be a big deal. Only some embarrassment, and that's all because now I'm an adult. I miss my dad, mom, and brother Boniface. I know they miss me too. Especially Boniface. We were inseparable, sharing lots of secrets about each other, engaging in mischief like eating raw sugar. I know he was the most affected by my sudden and unannounced departure. But hey, I had to leave the Two Hills pack. For the sake of my mental health, my sanity, I loved life at that pack, and I'll never forgive George for making me leave. As for now, I'm fine with life at this pack, except for this minor issue. The lectures begin and I shove all these thoughts to the back of my mind and concentrate. Sometimes during break time I remain in class to think. I want my brain to wander again to the Two Hills pack and to relive the memories with my family. But then I notice that Janet has not gone out for the break too. I rise immediately and walk out, because I don't want trouble. This girl has become a nuisance, and the less I interact with her the better. At lunch hour I avoid Janet completely and I spy on her from far. She is obviously going through some pain because she sits away from everyone else, her head held between her hands. I wonder what's ailing her, and at one point I'm tempted to ask her. But then I remember that she is no longer my friend and retract. The insults she hurled at me the other day are still fresh in my mind. After class I am the first to walk out, and as I head out of the school compound, at the parking lot I hear someone running behind me, and when I turn I see Janet. She is at her worst. Her hair is ruffled and her blouse has a missing button, and her bra is almost visible. What's wrong with this girl? Stop there, you stupid rogue. Where do you think you are going? To James's house? She asks between clenched teeth. So this was it? This is what she's been thinking about all day long? She comes closer, very menacingly, and she's only a few inches away from me. A strong odor invades my nostrils. She's been drinking some liquor. Aren't you going to say something, rogue? What have you gained? Going to Alpha James's house to force yourself into him? Where is your self-respect? Where is your esteem? She asks, her face almost touching mine. I want to ignore her and walk away, but she isn't finished with me. I have decided not to talk a single word to her. I'll let her vent. Then when she's through I'll walk away. You came here just the other day and you think you can take away James from me? Then you are mistaken. She continues. She's so angry and I'm afraid this may turn physical. Look at you, disgusting rogue, with zero self-esteem, living in squalor. Do you think the alpha will stoop this low, to take up someone who's this ugly? She asks. But talking of ugly, has she ever looked herself in the mirror lately? The Janet I knew back at the Two Hills pack was a beauty to behold. Very different from the Janet in front of me who is caked up in layers of makeup. Right now some of the layers have melted away, leaving her face looking like a mismatched mask. Her hair was dark back then, but now it's difficult to say which color it is because a huge wig covers it. Throw in her fake eyelashes and the picture is complete. She looks like a ghost straight from a horror movie. And now she has the audacity to call me ugly? I remain silent, wondering when she will leave me alone. I need to get home early today to help in the kitchen and she's delaying me. Listen, ugly rogue. Stay away from James. You should stop throwing yourself at men. You lack parental guidance and that's why you have stooped to this low level. Despicable. Just like your lowly parents. She finally hits a raw nerve. I cannot allow anyone to insult my parents. Insult me all you want, but leave my parents alone. I find myself holding her neck, squeezing the life out of it. Her wig falls off, and she screams out, attracting the attention of other students. Once the students see that it's her, they give little attention, more like leaving her to face the music. She's all mine, and a few spectators are looking. I decide to give her something to talk about, but she's so weak that a little effort from my hand sends her sprawling on the cobblestone parking lot. I walk towards her, to teach her a lesson or two on respect for my parents, but just as I'm about to pounce on her, strong arms hold me back. She takes the opportunity to get up and she runs away. Coward. I try to disentangle myself from the arms grasping me from behind. Then a familiar voice speaks.
You should not be fighting. Why?
My mind quickly processes the voice. It's James, Alpha James. He lets go off my hands and I turn to face him.
get in the car.
It sounds like a command, and I walk into the car's open door. He gets in too and drives out. Minutes later, we are seated at his office at the pack house. A cup of coffee in front of me.
Now tell me, why are you fighting that girl?
He asks. I search for words to describe the circumstances, but I can't find them. She insulted me, my parents, and said that I'm a loose woman, that I was throwing myself at you. I finally gather the words. He rises from his seat and comes around to the coach where I'm seated. Then he seats beside me, his hand still grasping his steaming coffee.
Listen, Natalie, we are mates and you should have made it clear to her, to everyone for that matter. Why are you reluctant to do so?
He asks. Alpha James. I start, but he cuts me short.
It's James for you.
He quips. Well, as for us being mates, and about your proposal that I become the Luna of the pack, I asked you for some time. Please let me think about it, I say. He says nothing and we sit there awkwardly for a long time. Later, we talk about other general issues like my studies, family, and pack stuff like some impending clashes with a group of rogues. Night falls while still at his office, and he suggests that I spend the night at the pack house.
Don't worry, I'll assign a room to you,
he says. Tired and hungry, I accept his offer and he shows me into a big room with a big bed and a bathtub. Once he has left, I fill the tub with water and slip inside, then enjoy as the cold water cools my nerves.